Welcome to this episode of the Multifamily Mindset Growthcast. We're excited to be here. Another beautiful Thursday morning. We're usually recording these on Friday, but today it's Thursday. Before we get started, before we dive in, just a reminder to like, subscribe, comment on wherever it is that you're listening to this podcast. We super appreciate the support. We've been getting a lot of compliments lately, and they mean to me, Dallas, speak up if they don't mean that much to you. But they mean so much to me, man. We put in a lot of time to this. So when we get compliments and reviews of people that are enjoying the podcast and it's benefiting them, it means a lot to me. We put a lot of time into it.
It means so much to me. I mean, it's a big deal for me.
Yeah.
I love, those are my favorite messages I receive every single week. And it's fun to wake up in the morning and have a couple sitting for you, from wherever they're coming from. A lot of them come from social media. A lot of them come from text. Weirdly enough, just people within our outer and inner circle that have contact with us. And I want to add another invitation, which is we have an amazing person on board with us that serves as our executive assistant with everything that we do. Her name is Meg. And if you would like to contact us via email, you can contact us. What is that email, Jax?
Growthcast at themultifamilymindset.com.
And the reason I bring that up is because if you have specific feedback for us of something that you're struggling with, something you would like to hear us dive deeper into and bring some more actionables to the table to help you in your business, you in your life, she is a great person to reach out to. So use that email.
We can keep those requests completely anonymous too. So it's not like we're going to blast you if you ask us a question if you need help with something. We'd love to address it because chances are there's other people that are also struggling with that. So, or even if it's not a struggle, if there's just a certain topic you want us to touch on. Send an email over to Meg and we can get it going.
Another thing that we're doing now that we've built out a stronger foundation with everything that we had going on in the early stages is we want to invite new guests. We're going to do those extended cuts once again and start looping those in periodically. So if you have ideas of people that you would love to hear from in the industry of multifamily real estate, I mean, we work heavily in that population of people with our business, but just mindset in general, right? Feel free to throw those requests out, and we'll see what what magic we can muster up.
We have some really exciting guests coming up, so definitely stay tuned for that. We're excited to start reintroducing some guests, I'm excited about it.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, today we're going to dive into episode 58, What's Essential. In this episode, Dallas talks about the importance of focusing on the essential things and not overloading your plate with so many tasks. Dal, I'm going to pass it over to you just to give us a quick summary of that episode.
All right. Greg McEwen is the author of the book Essentialism. Mm-hmm. It's a great book. And if you'd like to know more in depth about his take and teachings on essentialism, great resource. But in it, he basically explains how we, in this modern world, we all get bogged down with the trivial many. We're loaded with options to the brim, right? Like we're overflowing with options, which makes us feel often like we have to be doing it all. That we have to be, doing everything that everyone else is doing and that we have to be good at all of it. And that actually is a hindrance, right? Like he explains how that's a hindrance to growth and how that type of approach can really weigh heavy on our psyche, can really weigh heavy on our energy, can really weigh heavy and bog us down as far as progress goes in life, and how if we can learn to prioritize and give power to the priorities and shorten that list, we can really experience a greater or a higher level of happiness, fulfillment, and success. And one of the quotes that he uses is, would you rather be good at a lot of things or great at just a few? And I love that perspective. You can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Yeah, oftentimes I know for myself and the people that I work with and the people that are around me, oftentimes we want to take on all of these tasks because we feel like they need to get done and we're the person to do it. And we like to take responsibility and ownership for all of these little tasks. Oftentimes, unfortunately, more times than not, we feel ourselves overwhelmed with the amount of tasks that we've taken on. And then for me, I sit there with all my tasks and I'm looking at my computer like, okay, now what's next? and I feel that overwhelmed, right? And I don't know exactly which direction to go. So Dal, I guess like as we're going through this episode, what are some things that people like myself or for me, what are some things I can do to feel okay not taking all those tasks, right? Because oftentimes when I don't take those tasks, or when people don't take the tasks, they feel like they're maybe letting others down. They feel like they're not doing or pulling the weight as much as they should be. How do we find that middle ground?
Yeah, give one of the best tactics is to change the connotation, or like change the feeling that you give to the word no, and not viewing the word no as a negative thing or like a disappointment.
Yeah.
Changing your perspective and your mentality about that word.
Yeah.
It's a powerful word, and it's a very useful tactic. I think we overlook some very simple mental skills, or very simple growth strategies. And one of the simplest and most powerful strategies for growth is just using the word no strategically when you need to.
Yeah.
So I think, working on that within your own inner dialogue, and being able to use that word when needed, and inserting it at times when you hadn't prior, right? Leading up to now, and you're trying to make that change.
Yeah.
And then detaching from those negative feelings that come after you say the word no. That takes practice, and that takes some work, but no is a powerful word. And just because you say no doesn't mean that it needs to be followed by disappointment and, sadness and all those things, right?
For sure. No, because that no leads you to a yes, in a sense of you're going to be getting the essential things that you need to get done, right?
And if you can create priorities,
yeah,
you'll know how to better use that word no.
Right.
But if you don't have a priority list set, if you don't know what's essential, that's an even, prior step that you have to make.
Yeah.
And you have to think that out, and you have to start listing that out. And for me, again, God, family, work, those are my priorities. Those are my top 3. I don't have to think about those. I know those.
Yeah.
So when tasks or responsibilities come my way regarding those 3 things, I don't say no a ton. However, I pay attention to how my plate is getting loaded up within those 3 priorities, and I start using the word no as needed as I'm paying attention to or noticing how I'm feeling, right? What my productivity levels are, noticing busy versus productive. And when I start to see that needle kind of drift back to I'm feeling overwhelmed and busy, I go back to those 3 priorities and start taking out some things that I need to, so that I can continually make progress in those 3 essential areas of my life. What that means, though, is if something comes my way regarding another priority that falls lower on that list, like hunting, for example, because that's important to me. It's part of my essential list, but it's lower on the totem pole.
It's a hobby, though.
Right? Yeah. And somebody texts me, a group of buddies text me, which happens, and they say, hey, dude, we're going to this archery shoot, this weekend, and you in? Well, impulsively and emotionally, yeah, I want to go.
Yeah.
Sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
But I say no. If my plate's loaded up heavily in those 3 other areas, and there's other priorities that take that piece's place, right? Because I want to be great at God, family, and work. And yeah, I'd like to be great at hunting too, but
that comes
not
after.
in comparison to those other things that fall higher on my essential list.
And you don't need to feel bad when you're telling your group of buddies no either, because you know that you're saying no so you can focus on what's essential, right? Obviously. Yeah. So you can focus on those things that you are trying to accomplish, that it's going to push you to your definite major purpose.
For sure. And you have to adopt the mentality that you are willing to sacrifice the good, the better for best.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's person to person.
Yeah. I remember in a meeting, this actually stuck with me. You don't even know this. I haven't even told this to you. Yeah. I remember in one of our weekly office meetings, at the Multifamily Mindset, at the very end, we like to turn it over to Dallas, our mindset guru, our mindset coach, to kind of get us in the right mindset for the week. This is a Monday morning meeting that we have. And we had, in this particular week, there was so many things that needed to get done that week. We had gone around the room, we had given out responsibilities and tasks, and I turn it over to Dallas for the mindset piece. And Dallas goes, all I'm going to say is no is going to become your best friend. Do you remember this one?
Yeah.
Do you remember this? Do you remember this meeting?
Yeah.
Dallas, I turn it over to Dallas, and he gives a little mindset piece on this, what's essential, and says, no is going to turn out to be your best friend. Explain that. Explain why you said that.
Yeah. So no, because one, if I remember correctly, you were feeling extremely overwhelmed at the time, but no is an antidote for anxiety and overwhelming feelings.
Yeah.
You cannot make progress in all the, again, I'm going to come back to that quote of you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Right.
That's why understanding what your major definite purpose, and I think you just mentioned that a minute ago, and funneling things back, everything funnels back to that.
Yeah.
Right? Like everything you do funnels back to that.
Yeah.
And you must be able to decipher and determine what's inching you closer to that and what's not. And at a moment's notice, when those things come up, those requests, you have to be able to go back to it, say, awesome, is this going to get me closer? If the answer is no, then even if it's a good thing, it becomes trivial versus what's the essential piece, right? And you will notice as you start getting better at saying no, that all of a sudden that gap between your major definite purpose and what fuels joy, what fuels happiness, what fuels success, that gap starts to shrink.
Yeah.
And dude, that's really exhilarating and fun when you start to notice that gap shrinking a lot quicker, right? You literally can increase the rate of progress towards whatever your metrics are with whatever goals you have if you get better and more proficient, a more proficient no, right? Like that's saying no.
Yeah. And what's so essential to knowing what's essential is knowing, like you just said, your definite major purpose.
Yeah.
All of the decisions need to be in line with that definite major purpose, right? I think oftentimes for me, I think maybe for others as well, we have all these tasks and list items of things that are asked of us and things that we need to get done. And sometimes I look at this list and I go, where do I start? What is essential on this list, right? And I think it ties back into what you were just saying. The stuff that needs to move to the top of the list, the essential items that need to get taken care of, are the ones that are going to get you closest to your definite major purpose.
And those are the ones that you should donate your highest amount of energy and time to.
Right.
And it's okay that some of those other things stay on the list. Like, we're not saying, ghost everyone and everything that ever comes your way if it doesn't fall perfectly in line.
Right.
But you could get better and should get better at understanding what, requires 10% of your energy and what requires 110% of your energy. Because there are a lot of tasks that you go about every day that they don't need 110% of your energy. They might just require 10% of your energy. Like, get the job done.
Yeah.
Call it good. Move on. Whereas those essential pieces, dude, they require the most of you.
Right.
So give the most of you in those areas.
That's a good point. That's a good point that you bring up for sure. And I think like a lot of like if you're having a hard time realizing, like trying to figure out what's essential and what task to tackle and make the priority, it's because maybe you don't know what your definite major purpose is. So I guess the one action item, one challenge that we can give in this episode is, if you're having a hard time with figuring out what's essential, chances are it's because you need to figure out better what is exactly your definite major purpose.
And yeah, you could reflect on your life, and what's probably happened is you've probably gotten away from things that bring you joy.
Yeah.
You've probably gotten quite a ways away from things that bring you happiness. And that could be a hobby. Hobbies might be essential right now if that's you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what's essential ebbs and flows a little bit as time progresses, and you have to pay attention to the details. It's not just you've set it in stone and it's there forever, because
You know what you need.
You know what you need,
Yeah.
and you have to pay attention to those details. I think that's an important tactic. And keeping the main thing, right? Like we talked about that just a minute ago.
Yeah.
The main thing is to keep the main thing. And going to paper and drafting out your why and reconnecting with your why, reconnecting with the things that drive you, reconnecting with your passions, reconnecting with your priorities, and organizing that is a great start too. That's a solid actionable. Go back and figure out what the main thing is. Quit drifting, quit dabbling.
Yeah.
Quit living your life for other people. Live it for yourself. And when you focus on being your best self, living it that way, you'll be better for everybody else that's around you. And that isn't meant to be a selfish tactic at all, right? Like self-help is important.
Yeah.
And you must put yourself as a priority
100%.
and personal development as a priority so that you can give that better self to everybody else.
Yeah, and all those tasks that you have. Yeah, exactly.
And no is part of that self-help piece, right?
Yeah.
Like no is part of lifting yourself up, making yourself better, and that no is a contributing factor to that better self so that you can give that better self to other people. That's where the focus is. That's why you want to become better, is because then it gives you more to give to everybody else.
That's clear. That makes sense. That makes so much sense to me. Now I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Okay.
I'm going to throw you a curveball. How do you remember, or how do you keep in line your priorities and what's essential when shit hits the fan?
Yeah.
When the ball drops and things aren't going as planned, how do you keep what's essential in what becomes essential after you've been doing all these tasks to accomplish your definite major purpose, to accomplish your goal? You accomplish that goal and it doesn't go as planned. What's essential after that?
Just because it didn't go as planned doesn't mean that what I've determined as essential isn't essential anymore.
Right.
I'll give a perfect example. Shiz did hit the fan in an experience I had recently.
Yeah.
Less than 24 hours. It was a solid buildup. I had designed my last 3 months around what's essential regarding this goal. And it did not come to fruition perfectly. It didn't even come to fruition. Like we fell short of the number, the metric, and it was disappointing. It was disappointing to say the least. I mean, I was really frustrated. So back to what's essential. No matter what happened there, it could have happened differently. It could have came to fruition. We could have hit the metric. It does not matter what happened, what could have happened versus what the reality was last night.
Yeah.
I would have done the same thing. And this is what I did. I went to the ballpark with my son and we hit balls and we played for an hour, and he brought me joy and he brought me happiness and he brought me success. And it was so fulfilling to go do that. And that added fuel for me to come to work today and figure my shit out and find solutions to the problems that we face, because that's all they were, is they were just problems that have solutions. Yeah. And that's powerful. And what helped me do that was connect with what is essential. And my family falls higher on my priority list than my work. The work that I do with my children falls higher on the priority list than the problems that I faced last night, even though they're still essential and still important. Yeah. So as you go up that hierarchy, right? Like when crap hits the fan, go up the hierarchy. And if that was a family issue, right? My order was God, family, and work. If that was a family issue and I had screwed up with my son and, said some things that I regretted, or my wife, you want to know where I would have went? God. Up the hierarchy. Yeah. I would have went to God, and I would have connected with that higher purpose, with that higher essential factor, and I would have ended up better, and I would have been able to find, again, joy, happiness, forgiveness, whatever it was I needed, and then I could have went back down the hierarchy, and I could have been better, and I will be better, and that's the essential list, and that's how it works. So, dude, I came, and we had our conversation this morning, And even now in this moment, I feel 100 times better, and it's great to recognize that process, but you can't recognize that process if you're not figuring, predetermining what's essential, how you're going to organize your life, how you're going to say no, what you're going to reconnect with. List goes on and on and on, and we've talked a lot about that.
No, dude, that's such good insight. When things don't go as planned, like Dallas is saying, I know how hard he's been working for this specific event and moment to happen, and then he's been working so hard, and he's got all these things done. He's accomplished all these tasks. He's prioritized correctly. And then, last night it happened, and it didn't go as planned. And it didn't go as well as he was expecting, as well as we were all expecting it to go.
Got punched in the face last night.
And it is okay.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, but I think it's so important for all of the listeners and for myself as well to realize that when shiz does hit the fan, go do what makes you happy and what drives you to do what you just did in the first place. Go do that, right?
Don't run away.
No.
Just go reconnect.
Go reconnect. Yeah.
That's a lot of people choose to run away.
Yeah.
A lot of people, the people who don't achieve their goals, the people who don't, succeed in the end game of whatever they've determined as their end game, they simply got distracted by a problem that came up, or a series of problems that came up. And really what that is when shiz hit the fan, they ran away. They didn't reconnect. They ran away. And then their mentality started to be fractured and weakened, and they chose to the perspective of, well, maybe this just isn't for me. Maybe this just isn't what I'm supposed to do. Well, you want to know what? You get to choose whatever the hell it is that you want to do and what you want to tackle.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. So figure out what it is you want to do and then commit. And when life punches you in the face, just go reconnect, refuel, re-energize, and get back to work, man, and solve the problem.
Dude, I love that so much. It's just such a great perspective to think about and to understand that it's okay when things don't go right. It's totally okay. Like, it's okay. But
you signed up for it.
Well, you signed up for it. But what's more important and what's not okay is leaving that goal, leaving that passion, leaving that definite major purpose because of an issue. Reconnect, but reconnect with the purpose that you're going to be back to attack whatever it was that did punch you in the face, to make sure that it gets reversed and bettered.
Here's something to add to that in closing is, when I went and reconnected with my son and went up that hierarchy to grab some fuel, when I was there in the first 10 minutes, there was still kind of that clouded, mindset of like, I wasn't where my feet were at. I was still thinking about, I think I even sent a few texts as I was driving to the ballpark. I wasn't talking with my son. He was just sitting there quietly.
Yeah.
Just like doing his thing. And I remember looking over and being like, what am I doing? This is not productive.
Yeah.
This is causing problems. I can't be focused on the problem anymore because I have an opportunity right in front of me to grab some fuel. Put your phone down. Put it in your jockey box. Don't leave it in your pocket when you go out to the field. And when I did that, that's when the tank started to be filled up. And that's what gave me power to keep moving forward, right? Power for the propeller of growth.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an important tactic and an important principle is as you go to reconnect, go up that hierarchy, that essential hierarchy list, right? Be at that point. Be where your feet are in that moment with your son at the ballpark grabbing fuel, because if you're not really grabbing fuel, you're adding problems. And you might as well as not be there, but in some cases, maybe, right?
Totally.
So
Dal, what are some actionable items that we could put in place, that we could list out for people to do to reconnect and remember always what is essential for them, right? So before we get there though, one thing that we've determined in this episode is to determine what is essential, you have to know what's essential in your life. Dallas lists off the hierarchy for him, which is God, family, work. What does that look like for you? What is it that drives you and that motivates you to get up every morning and do and tackle those tasks that are essential? How does one go about figuring that out and then constantly reminding themselves of what is essential?
So creating a list is a solid starting point. You have to have your hierarchy set. You have to have those priorities in check, and that list can't be huge.
Oh.
Dude, if you're listing that out and you're looking at it and you're like, okay, I got about 10 things. No. Warren Buffett teaches a principle of like dwindling it down to 5. And I don't know all the specifics off the top of my head to tell you everything about Warren Buffett's process here, but he essentially teaches the same principle that you can choose, 1 to 5 things that you're going to be good at in life, and the rest is garbage. He even talks about a list of 20. I think it's coming back to me. So you start by creating a list of the 20 most important things, right, that you could achieve in your life, that you would want to come to fruition, whatever it may be. And then you start bringing that list down all the way to 5. And when you get to 5, you're good.
That's what you know. That's what you need to focus on.
Everything else is not important, is what he teaches. It's trivial.
Yeah.
Everything else, even if it's good, that's the good and the better, but you are making room for best. So that list has to be the best of the best, the cream of the crop. It has to be, and then you design your life around that forever.
Yeah.
And that's what being great at a few looks like versus being, good or semi-good at a bunch of stuff. And so I think solidifying your list, and once you've solidified your list, why? Why have you created the list the way you've created it? And then go, 7 layers deep. Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep listing it out. Draft it up in a journal. And just keep diving deeper and deeper into those layers as to why those 5 things are the most important to you. And then you continually design and construct your life around that forever.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is decide what those 3 to 5 things are and constantly have those things at the forefront in your mind when you're making your decisions.
No gets easier if you do that.
Exactly. Oh, 100%. That's a great point.
You have a hard time saying no? That's because you haven't done that.
That's because you don't know what is essential. It's because you don't know exactly where your focus should be. That's a great point. And I think that's a solid place to end. Is, friends, if you don't know what's essential in your life, its chances are because you don't know what you want. Figure that out. Figure out what's essential for you. Dial it in and make all of your decisions based on what's essential for you in your life. Dallas, anything you want to add before we end?
No, I don't think so, man.
Okay.
That's a great solid, stopping point. I always want to add a ton. I always want to go on for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But just appreciate you and appreciate all of you listeners, right? Like, I appreciate everybody that's on here. This is for you. We've built this for you, but as much as it is for you, it's for us as well. This is a community, right? Like, this is not, I hope nobody ever feels like this is Jackson and Dallas telling you how you should live your life. I hope you understand the value you bring to our lives, and it humbles me every time I get an opportunity to, do these extended cuts and these deep dives with Jackson, and even on the daily drip, to compartmentalize and reflect and be a mirror of how I can figure this out better and, better serve others, yes, via the Growthcast, but also figure my own stuff out and continually figure my own stuff out. And I just want you to know you bring me value, and I am very grateful for that.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's Extended Cut. Episode 58, What's Essential. Go re-listen to it. Listen to this deep dive. Like, subscribe if you haven't. Leave us a comment. We appreciate you. As I just want to echo what Dallas says, we put a lot of work into this, but as it is so much for everybody that's listening, it's more so, if not for us. We benefit a ton from doing these episodes, so we're grateful that we have a platform to be able to do it and that we have an audience of people that are listening. So we love you. We thank you. Email us for suggestions at the Growthcast at the multifamilymindset.com. Get in contact with Meg. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for everything you guys do for us. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.